Bienvenidos a todos. Welcome, Comadres and friends. I am Maria Ferrer, the Executive Director of Las Comadres para las Américas and the Las Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club. On behalf of our leadership team, it is a pleasure to welcome you tonight to our podcast as we celebrate our 20th anniversary. For 2 decades, we've had the privilege of championing Latina authors, connecting readers across the country, and building a vibrant, supportive literary community. Your enthusiasm and continued support have made this journey possible, and we're excited for many more years of sharing powerful stories and unforgettable voices together. We also would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone joining us on our Latino Lit. We're glad you are part of this conversation. Join us in welcoming authors Venessa Vida Kelley and Cristy Road Carrera. Before we begin keeping notes, please keep yourselves on mute during the program. Your video's on if you like. Around too much because it could be distracting. We recommend using the speaker mode, though gallery view works just as well. If you have any questions, comments, please share them in the chat and we'll do our best of the discussion. Moment to reflect on the history of our book club.
Okay. Welcome everyone, comadres and friends. My name is Nidia Marcella, and I'm the book club membership coordinator. Our book club began in July of 2004 in the apartment of Maria Ferrer here in New York City. But after a brief pause, Nora Comstock reimagined and relaunched the organization nationwide. Her vision was to promote Latino authors, bring our community into bookstores, and support our writers. In October of 2006, we began hosting teleconferences, and now our 20th year, we continue to share works with by Latino authors, with book lovers everywhere. Our book club podcasts are designed to encourage everyone, not just Latinos, to read more Latino literature, explore diverse culture perspectives, and gain deeper insight into Latino roots and heritage. We are creating a space where readers can explore the rich inner world of Latino writers through their written word. We currently have book clubs in 12 cities around different time zones, and we invite you to join a local chapter that fits your schedule. If your city isn't represented, you are welcome to help in starting a new club. For more information, you can visit the website latinolit.com. I will put that in the chat. So spread the word and invite others to join our literary community. Okay, Comadre Karen, take it away.
Welcome, comadres and friends, to our June 2026 podcast. I'm Karen Gonzalez, Assistant Coordinator for the Las Comadres and Friends Book Club, Denver Comadres Book Club Facilitator, and co-founder of the Colorado Alliance of Latino Mentors and Authors. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our first interview is with Venessa Vida Kelley, a New Yorker, author, illustrator, and aspiring mermaid who writes fairy tales about the real world so they can draw them too. They hold a BA and MA in English literature with concentrations in film from the University of Delaware and the George Washington University, respectively. And their illustrations have decorated LGBTQ plus books worldwide. When the Tides Held the Moon is their debut novel. Interviewing Venessa is Comadre Shirley Yanis, an avid lover of fantasy books, manga, movies, anime, and her community. She's a board member for the Latino Film Festival. They are passionate about supporting BIPOC and LGBTQ plus stories, books, podcast art, content creators, directors, authors, and film projects. Take it away, Comadre Shirley.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you to your cat, too. who's in the background. I had to shout him out. I had to shout him out. Hi, Vanessa. Before we start,
Hello.
hello. Good evening. Before we start, I just want to say Happy Pride to everybody.
Yay, happy Pride.
Just wanted to shout it out before we forget. So yeah, let's go. How would you describe the book When the Tides Held the Moon to someone who hasn't read it yet?
Okay, I'll see if I can keep this brief. So When the Tides Held the Moon takes place in 1911 at a Coney Island sideshow, and we basically follow the adventures of Benny Caldera, who is at the start of the novel an iron worker, and he has been tasked to build a massive water enclosure for a Coney Island proprietor. And then he gets roped into helping kidnap the intended inhabitant, a merman from the East River. So it's very much a story about found family as Benny is integrated into the sideshow performers community. But love flourishes between the glass, between Benny and the merman that he helped capture. And essentially the story is about, the cages that hold us, both in the physical realm, but also in the emotional and psychological realm as well. And, what it really takes to break ourselves out of those cages so that we can help break out those that we love. I think I I hit all the major points that weren't too spoilery.
Yeah, those are the key topics that like to the point without getting too spoilery as well. No, it is a beautiful story. I also want to say thank you for shouting out LES. I was like, oh wait,
Yes.
I was like, that's so cool.
Oh, that makes me happy.
Yeah,
LES,
I
for
was
those
like,
who
wait
don't
a
know,
second.
Lower East Side, Manhattan.
But also before we move on, but it made me look at Coney Island a little differently because I've been there a lot. I grew up like here, Brooklyn, and all that stuff going around. But I was just like, wow, this makes me just appreciate it more. It's not like I didn't appreciate it, but it just made me look at it like
Oh
a
yeah,
new
there's a
light.
whole
Yeah.
deep diving into the history of Coney Island, because I grew up in New York too, and I was at Coney Island in the summers, and I didn't think anything beyond, the cyclone and how it always gave me a headache to ride it.
I never rode it.
Oh yeah,
Right.
once was enough for me, and I was like, oh, my body can't take this anymore. But on a serious note, Coney Island was like, when we think about like Disney World today, and like the nighttime festival of lights and things like that, like those were all inspired by America's playground, and that means Dreamland, Luna Park, and Steeplechase Park, the three big parks in Coney Island. And so I fell down this rabbit hole and realized that this place was like in its heyday. It was where you went to leave society behind, especially, when we're talking about the transition from Victorian and Edwardian, like sort of conservative ideals, moving into the roaring 20s. Like Coney Island was at the intersection of that propriety versus just hedonism.
No, yeah. Actually, that goes into my next question. What did your historical research process look like when building the 20th century Coney Island setting?
Oh, it was a lot like following breadcrumbs,
Mm.
because at first I didn't know like precisely what year I was going to land on. I knew that it was going to be turn of the 20th century, but I wasn't sure whether I could root it, like literally put a pin down on a map and a date for all of the things that were going to happen. And I still wasn't even sure whether Benny was going to be, a teenager or, a full-on adult. And just like my father-in-law was the one who said, you should probably call up the Tenement Museum. And they were my first, like, consultants on the project, because this was all like, I did all my research during COVID, so I couldn't go to New York because that entire, conduit was shut down. Like no one was going in or out of the city. So I got on the phone with them, and they were able to help me piece together some of the immigrant dynamics. And then from there, they said, if you're going to write about a Puerto Rican in Brooklyn, then the person you want to talk to is Virginia Sanchez Corral, who at the time was a professor emeritus at CUNY Brooklyn for their Puerto Rican studies department. And she was also at the time consulting with Steven Spielberg on West Side Story.
No way.
So cool. It was bananas. And so through Virginia, she gave me a boatload of just like primary and secondary resources to sort of read up on. And she was like, there is a sideshow that is still in operation in Coney Island, and maybe you want to reach out to them. So I reached out to the Coney Island Museum / Circus Sideshow. They are on Surf Avenue, and if you haven't been to one of their shows, they're running all summer long. You don't want to miss out.
Oh my God. That's so funny, because my sister was saying that there was a show still, and I was like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, now you say that, I'm like, oh, okay. I really gotta look into that, because that's so cool.
It was wild. And so the art director of the show was like, yeah, like, let's get on a Zoom and I'll tell you everything I know, because he is also the curator for the museum and is a sword swallower himself. So he has like been read in on Coney Island operations since it was covered in like rabbits. So so he had a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share about the waterfront culture and how it was very LGBTQ positive. When we're talking about sideshow history, those lines run parallel to colonialism and queer history, and seeing the way all of those historical lines cross at the parks was just absolutely fascinating and very humbling as well. Because you're writing a book and you have this idea of like doing a romantasy, and then halfway through it you're like, I really have to do like justice to the people who actually lived this experience. So yeah, I had it took a village, but I was very, very fortunate to have people sort of guiding my hand to different resources and filling in gaps and whatnot. And it was actually one night, like combing through Red Hook newspapers from like 1904, that I finally put 2 and 2 together between Benny and actual history, when I found an article of stowaways from Puerto Rico that landed in Red Hook. And I was like, there he is.
Cool. No, I just love that aspect, and that's why I love the romance, no lie, the mermaid and everything. But I'm a history nerd, so when anything goes like that, and I love research and just like, I'm just like, I eat it up. I'm just like, all right, let's go. So thank you.
It's awesome.
But yes, but like the slideshow stuff, and you do mention it in the book about like also the racism aspect of it as well. And I was like, I appreciate that, because yeah, there was a lot of it as well.
Oh yeah,
but it's also found family too. So
yes,
well, too.
That's the wild thing about sideshow history, is that as I mentioned, it runs parallel to colonialism, right? The sideshow was one of the ways America and other, colonizing countries would exert its dominance and show people who we were dominating. And as a result, it was a very international group of people that would wind up on the stage. Some people choosing to be on the stage because the life off of it was too dangerous. And so if you were performing, that community was the way you survived. And the found family, as much as they like wring each other's necks sometimes, was, they would quite literally put their lives on the line for each other.
Yeah. And you felt that with the menagerie family. You felt like they'll bicker and fight, but they love each other.
Yes.
This actually goes to my next question. This story features several powerful themes like identity with Benino, found family with the menagerie, the sacrifices made for loved ones, and the literal and metaphorical cages Benino and Rio find themselves in. As an author, how did you ensure these themes were seamlessly enrolled into the plot?
Oh gosh. The weird thing about it was that it felt as though the story was steering all of those elements without me, right? You have a romance between a cultural hybrid, right? Someone who feels neither this nor that because he's left Puerto Rico, he is now in the United States, and as a result, his identity is kind of like amorphous. And he's on the other side of the glass from someone who is biologically neither this nor that. And so it felt very organic to have this discussion about identity between, you know, these two characters sort of getting to know each other and fall in love with each other. And then to have all of the members of the menagerie add their own layer of self-acceptance to Benny's experiences. And I feel like that's that at the crux of the entire book is what I think matters the most. The fact that as long as I was steering Benny towards an eventual self-acceptance, because we entered the novel and he is completely negating his needs and his identity to the degree that he is, you know, a chronic asthmatic working in an ironworks and is essentially moving towards like self-destruction in that environment, all because he thinks he has to and doesn't feel like he has other options. And part of that is, in fact, the society and the constraints that are being placed upon him, but also it's, you know, sort of hastened and exacerbated by the fact that at the beginning of the novel, Benny believes it. He's integrated the racism that's surrounding him. He's integrated the queer phobia that he grew up with, you know, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I was just trying to reach a point B.
No, yeah. I mean, I think that was the big thing that I gravitated like to was Benny's identity, like, and him trying to figure out as a Puerto Rican queer man, you know, in this new land and stuff. And, you know, the whole thing about United States feeding you that like, oh, you're gonna make it here. And, you know, that's,
And
you
that
know,
being a very problematic, yeah.
very
Well,
problematic, you know. So it was like I was rooting for him because I always felt for him because I was just like, you have to put many hats on to just
yeah,
fit into this like a vision of like, oh my God, like the white man or something, like of the acceptance, so that way you could just survive, you know.
right.
And but
Exactly.
you know, you're just surviving. When are you gonna live? You know? So it's like those
Exactly.
questions and that feeling comes up. And I guess he feels it when, you know, when he's with Rio and stuff.
I
He
know.
feels it on.
I
And
couldn't
you
help
heard me tearing
myself.
a couple times. I was like, I'm in love with this merman. Like, I want to be with Rio. Okay, talk to me. Because, yeah, this is not one of my questions, but like the way the real parts and like the phrasing and when he's talking about Benino and what he means to him, and even when they talk to each other, it's like just beautiful and powerful. And you're like, whoa,
Thank you.
no, yeah,
So the first draft of the book was actually entirely Benny's POV, and it wasn't until maybe like the second or third draft that we realized we really needed to be in Rio's head for some of these moments. And it was the best decision because, you know, Rio comes from this musical civilization, and so getting to be in his thoughts and think, okay, so if I were to write Rio's thoughts like a song, what would that be like? And that's where a lot of the sort of lyrics comes out of, his inner monologue and all of his observations about, not just, Benny, but also his terror of Sam Morgan.
No, I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to punch him.
I know.
But there's some people you're like, okay, hold on.
Well, so there are people who are like, so who was your inspiration for Sam Morgan? I was like,
oh, that's a good question. Who was it? Was it like everybody?
It was
okay.
P.T. Barnum. We get the Greatest Showman version, right? Like where, he's this sparkly, charismatic, whatever the hell. I'm like, the man was evil because you have to be a certain kind of person to make a living exploiting other people,
Yeah.
So that person in reality wound up being the sort of like root inspiration for Sam, even though I probably like pushed Sam even further into the realm of corrupt, terrible person.
But still equal because it's still like fantasy, but it's still reality as well. So it's like, yeah.
Right.
Yes, I actually wanted to do a question from the Denver network because they sent questions too. How long did it take you to write and illustrate this book?
So the process was probably start to finish about 5 years. So I started researching and writing, in like 2019. And I mean, once a book gets picked up for publication, then you're on like a sort of timeline. We sold the book with like our fingers and toes crossed that they would even let me illustrate it because, it's very rare for a publishing company to accept the author as the illustrator as well, just because at that point, contractually, you become two people and you are beholden to totally, two separate sets of deliverables. So we had to try very hard to matrix out the schedule so that I could work on my manuscript edits, pass them off, and then work on artwork, pass that off, and back and forth and back and forth. And of course, all of those, expectations got mangled in, August of 2024 when Kensington, the greater publishing house, of which Erewhon is the imprint, decided they were going to try out this blue and black ink thing. And they needed to have the artwork ready for the advanced reader copies. And they're like, so I know we said you could hand in artwork in December, but we're going to need it as close to finish as possible in August. Wow. So I had to like stop editing the arc, and I'm like, spending nights, 10 to 11 o'clock at night trying to hurry through like inking and stuff like that. It was kind of wild and nutty for a bit there, but once we hammered things out, like it was, I could not be happier with the way it all turned out. And yes, it took a team of people. It took having a director that knew what my vision was and how to execute on it, like from a manufacturing standpoint, like getting the right paper, getting the right like weight. And then having Leah Marsh on layouts, who was like, I mean, this person is a saint. I would like take out a sentence and it would change the kerning on 3 different pages around like some of the illustrations. I'd be like, okay, if you need an extra sentence, put this there. So yeah, it was a labor of love. And even though it took 5 years for this one, the next book that's coming out, which is also a historical romantasy that's fully illustrated, that one, we've got our process. We're hopefully not going to have so many U-turns. It'll be smoother, I think.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Oh, yeah, because I like, look, illustrations in my background. It's amazing. It's just beautiful. it immerses you into the story. Like when you're like flipping, reading it, you're like, oh, there's illustrations. It took me back to even when I was a kid, and it's just like so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That was the whole point, is
And then,
to make it feel like something that you would have bought
yeah,
in like, yeah, the early 1900s.
and I was like, is it the author that's illustrating? Yeah, you know, sometimes it's two different people as well, and that's
Hmm.
great as well. But I was like, oh, it's you too. And I was like, and then in my head, I'm like, oh, they must have been stressed out. They did it. They did it, and they did a great job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We were really stressed out for for like the entire summer of 2024, but we
Oh,
did it.
you did it, and you did an amazing job. Yes. Um, how did the intersection of being queer and Puerto Rican shape the development of Benino's story and the world they inhabited?
Oh gosh. Like maybe I shouldn't have, but Benny was definitely like my self-insert. Because I grew up like I it's not just that I grew up in a very religious Puerto Rican household, so much as there was like we had like I had a gay cousin, and he was immediately thrown out of his household by his parents and lived with us for a good chunk of the 80s, and he also had AIDS. um and so watching my family do its dance around him was, I think, one of the reasons why it took me so long to apprehend my own queerness, because every time I did, I was like, no, I'm one or the other. I can't be both. you know um and so even though my family was never like outright coming out with slurs or anything like that, those subtle microaggressions, the way um my cousin had been sort of very quickly erased, uh made a tremendous impression on me as a kid. um and so I wanted to come at it from the standpoint of like, if I don't look at it, maybe it's not there. That's kind of how Benny is at the beginning. It's very much keep your head down, and that way you don't have to cope with who you really are. And it's a lot of what I was confronting, especially during the pandemic. I was going through identity shifts in so many different ways as a parent, as someone grappling with their gender and sexuality at the same time, and trying to leave a federal job, which at the time was not connected to, but the agency that I was working for was overseeing ICE contracts. Mm. And so as everything, sort of dissolved into this primordial sort of stew of, COVID-19, that's when Benny's story really sort of became a little guiding light for me. And as I'm writing him finding himself and loving himself on the page, I was able to sort of piece parts of myself together at the same time.
No, it's a beautiful story. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really, it reflects me too as a Puerto Rican and a queer woman as well. So, thank you. Yeah, I think that's it. Actually, our time
yeah, we hit the nail on the head at 8:30.
Yes. But thank you, and yeah, happy Pride again. I just have to shout it out.
Oh yes, happy Pride! Thank you so much, Shirley, and thank you, Comadres. This was wonderful.
Oh, gracias, Comadres. Our second interview is with Cristy Road Carrera, an eternal rabble-rouser and a first-generation Cuban-American artist, writer, and musician. Blending anti-fascist principles with survival love stories, Road has spent over 25 years testifying to the beauty of the imperfect. Her career began in 1996 with the self-published punk rock fanzine that sparked decades of illustrating for music, literature, and social movements. She currently performs her songs as Choked Up, making records and playing shows with the ancient punk rock ethos of passion before profit. Interviewing Cristy is Comadre Jacqueline Gonzalez, a proud daughter and baby sister of immigrants. Jackie is a first-generation Chicana living in Southern California. She prides herself as a story advocate, having learned the power of cuentos from her mama's oral histories to the spooky leyendas passed down by her tias. Jackie created and manages the virtual book and resource sharing community Traviesa Reading Club. Take it away, Comadre Jackie.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches a todos.
Buenas.
But it's an honor, Cristy, to be interviewing you. It's a privilege.
Thank you, thank you so much.
This one really spoke to me. I'm the
Thank you.
As a millennial and a baby sister of like Gen Xers, it was really my Gen X siblings who kind of like, especially my oldest sister, she was like a goth punk queen to me in my eyes, and she really instilled punk and introduced me to kind of the theology of punk, which was like always like inherently anti-fascist, anti-systems of oppression, queerness, community, and kindness, right? And doing it all loudly and unapologetically. So I loved it. I love that this book came at the right time. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sink or burn. I should have put a cool background.
We'll bring it up for you.
Oh,
I got it for you too. And, I mean, I just want to kind of go straight in. Like, can you explain a little bit about the origins of Sink or Burn? How did it come to be, and why now? Why did you decide to tell this story now?
It's very much a memoir. And it's Sink or Burn takes place in 100 years from now, and it's focused on the band Cheap Glitter, who are a queer punk band who just happened to become like the voice of their generation. And their generation happens to have been born into this like utopian, very fictional, that is a fictional part of the book, democratic socialist America, where there was like hundreds and hundreds of initiatives towards land back initiatives, towards racial justice and reforming education. So it's about survival and respect versus growth and capital. And it was just this world they were born into. And that world falls apart and is overthrown by a fascist regime called New America. And that fascist regime kind of existing on the ashes of this world that we really believed in, and like this work that was so important, was inspired by just living through so much. Like during the Obama administration, so many people had hope that things would change, even though, there was still, we weren't always hearing about deportations and ICE and foreign policy and kind of negotiating around war and bombing other countries. And we were getting a lot of this like leftist reform happening in the United States. And I feel like there's a very fine line between envisioning another world and destroying that, because you kind of like chill out when things feel good. And I started writing this when Joe Biden was elected, and everybody was like, "We are saved. Nothing needs to keep happening. We're in a global pandemic, but for some reason we will live because the dolphins are free." And there was a lot of liberation and kind of like restructuring because of the lockdown, because of shutting down, because of stopping the system, where a lot of things were able to thrive and were able to grow and were able to heal, like the pollution, over cities and stuff like that. And so I made these characters born into a world that is kind of this reimagined, like culture of resistance. And um, their band kind of starts blowing up when they're early 20s, kind of. And in that time period, this fascist regime takes over. And so the story is really inspired by like these times that me and my community and queer people, and folks on the margins making art and making music out of rage and out of displacement and so that energy of like, well, let's build another world. Let's make this happen. And, this regime is going to take over, but we're going to keep thriving and we're going to, fight it and exist. And so that's the background of the story. The focus, sorry, I'm a Gemini.
Yes.
The focus is on Carolina Tatiana San Lázaro de la Quinta, who is based off of me. And this is my painting of her. This is in the end this is in black and white in the book. I also illustrated the book, and I've been doing illustrated novels and graphic novels forever. And this one I really want I just had too much feelings in me. There's art, but it's like a lot of the story of Carolina falling in love with her bandmate. And in order to enjoy that love and enjoy that flirtation and enjoy the way her bandmate Fulanito del Mar is, giving these subtle signals and flirting and being weird, but like totally unavailable, and playing mad games. But that doesn't have to be painful. Like that could be cute and fun and sexy. But she is unable to do that because of trauma and sexual trauma. And so it's just the story of a survivor who is trying to exist in a society that's falling apart, trying to save the world, trying to be like a social justice warrior and a powerful front woman with a lot of privilege and a lot of power in the world, but she can't access it at all. She just wants to drink, she wants to cry, she wants to complain about Fulanito, and then she meets these witches and realizes, oh my God, maybe I should consider healing. Maybe I should start taking care of myself. And instead of drinking, maybe I should like talk about this and find ways to heal. But because of, the state of the world, she can't just log on to betterhelp.com on tour. Like, it's like there is so much of emphasis on how do we do this ourselves? How do we do this with ancestral magic and with connecting to the earth before connecting to the power of our capital, the power of our, of our assets. And so there's a long theme throughout the book where she always goes to her abuelas and she calls her abuelas up and it's like, abuela Ulta, abuela Amparo. Amparo is named after my tia abuela in Cuba, whose story, along with my story as a punk, both really inspired that kind of like, this is what we have. This is the world that we're in. And how are we going to use it to create something beautiful, to heal one another, and to also forgive ourselves for being a mess and for being angry and for being broken.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, wow, Cristy, because you hit so many of the themes that you hit in this book. I'm just like, ooh, I just want to unpack it. I want to unpack it. And so, I think one of the overarching things that I found so powerful was like your world building in this story, like the world that you built, and also like the historical timeline that you created, and so I was wondering, if you could talk a little bit about that, is like, how did you create this kind of political history in the book? I know you mentioned, it's just there's obviously the parallels to what we're living now, but I mean, how can you explain a little bit how you came up with this timeline and why you chose to have this story take place, particularly in this like new America that the book talks about?
Well, interestingly enough, similar to Vanessa, I wrote this during the lockdown. I started in 2016 because I grew up with Star Wars and I grew up with Blade Runner and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanna build a weird dystopian world. That'll be so cool. But it just wasn't like, it felt fake. It felt like, oh, I'm a memoirist. I've written a bunch of memoirs. My most recent project is a tarot deck called the Next World Tarot.
Cool.
And it's not a memoir, but it's about the world that I was living in and the world I was seeing and about human healing. And then, but before that, I did Bad Habits. Spit Passion is like my coming out memoir. And I've just been writing about the human experience and pain and suffering during our coming of age. As a Juanita de Miami, and I grew up really strict values,
Mm.
and so writing about being queer and being in the closet, but like romanticizing that closet and finding punk and having this like other world through punk and this very, looking back now, I'm like, God, we had so much privilege. We like built this safety mechanism for us to maintain our pride and our identities. But then it's like you hit your mid 20s and you're like, fuck, I'm going up to Bushwick to feel something, to eat
Yeah.
like empanadas and to talk in Spanish to le bodeguero and I feel so
Yeah.
alone in punk.
Mm.
And then it's funny you say you're from Fullerton. I started
Yeah.
going to Long Beach and I was like, oh my God, Latinos and ska bands and like
Yeah.
everyone's
Yep.
queir and like, oh my God. I
Yep.
started doing that around
Yeah.
2008, 2009. And that's when I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? Like, I need to be integrated. I need to feel like this oneness with culture,
Mm.
identity, where I live, the space I inhabit. And so, creating that kind of image of, um, sorry, I cut myself off.
No, you're
But
good.
creating that image of a world that is thriving in the dystopia and
Mm.
thriving against the imperialism and the violence that's taking place um, is really inspired by that kind of secret life that me and a lot of young queer people, punk rockers who were I met in the community because they were escaping something because
Right.
but yeah, growing up in Miami, it was very lonely. And then once I moved to New York, it was like such a wake up call to like come out to my mom. I was 27 when I came out to my mom. Like, and it's just like it was like a moment of, oh, all these things need to coexist. But so I want to write this book about trauma and love and falling in love and like the power of love and connection and community when you are in the middle of a pandemic, a societal collapse, um, and that kind of like so it was inspired by all of those things and just also growing up and how normal it was. The U.S. blockade against Cuba, the economic blockade, which we just call it embargo. It's embargo, es un
Mm-hmm.
embargo, and it was just so it's this thing that
Mm-hmm.
we had. And then it was like our friends and family that would like. Or not our friends and family. It was like people in the neighborhood. I don't. I actually, mostly people on TV. They would visit their family members. Like this whole idea of like I'm gonna go see grandma in Nebraska, like, and
Right.
and I was like, that's so cool that people can do that. Like, why can't we just do that? It's 90 miles south here of Miami. Why can't we just get on a lanchita and go to visit Guanabacoa to see abuelita? And it was so just like weird, like feeling of like, well, we are in this dystopia. We are in
Mm.
this like a dead end where we just have to like figure it out and do what we can and create like a world where that isn't painful, where we aren't constantly like in um like this state of rage and we are working against it and world building and creating these like cultures of resistance, but yeah, and so the memoir in this comes out where it's like, all right, so we found it. Music, art, community, that is the key to resistance, and then participating in the resistance. So this band is on this cross country tour that is very dangerous, and they're raising money for an initiative to stop the regime from privatizing the dystopia, the Eastern dystopias, which are all squatted, but very high-end squatting, which is also inspired by punks that and all kinds of people who have built off-grid communities and learn how to make running water and learn how to do all these things and so the kind of normalization of self-sufficiency is like it's like something I've always daydreamed of. So I was like, oh my God, let's make Philly and New York, let's like run on its own. Like people just decided, well, we don't want to go move into the biodome, which is where the regime kind of settled in the middle of the United States. So we're going to try to make this very polluted, very dystopian, horrible like land. We're going to reclaim it. We're going to make it work. We're going to grow hydroponic gardens. We're going to like teach each other how to survive, how to stay safe. And so all those worlds being magical, like the magic kind of dies when you are a traumatized person with trauma. And that is my story in punk. It's like being in the most beautiful moments of resistance, Black and brown people, like queer people rejoicing and you know, this is from like mid 90s until now, but then feeling like, oh my God, my abusive ex is right there on the other side of the room. How can I enjoy myself? And so the book is based off of this healing journey, and I've written a lot about this. I was like, God, people are gonna make fun of me. I'm still writing about this abusive relationship from 2002, but that's just how it is. And I think we need to forgive ourselves for like constantly like rewriting or processing that pain because I'm so proud of how it turned out as a like retelling of something that I've written about already.
100%. No, I mean that was one of the like I feel like the overarching themes that I loved about this book is that like even within a dystopian world, we're still dealing with our own personal trauma. You know, like we still want love, we still want to heal. Like yes, we want to heal the generations of like imperialist trauma, but we also
Yeah.
have but we also have our trauma from our own personal like family like
Yeah.
relationships, and so like
Yeah.
but there's still like this hunger for like self-actualization because that's also important for the village. That's also important for our communities, is for us to heal like and also self-actualize. So I was like, can you explain a little bit of why that was important for you to highlight that in this story is like this concept of healing and self-actualization within dystopia or within dystopian worlds.
Well, I think as an activist, as an artist, a person that's just gonna be out in the world, anybody organizing comadres, like anybody doing a cool thing that is about community building and revolution and um it's really hard to do that when you're sad. And I think we attack each other like, Christy, you haven't posted anything for Pride about, you know, you haven't posted. Oh my God, you're a bad activist. And it's like, actually, I've been dealing with housing drama. I've been dealing with family illness. I've been, you know, all these things like that are like, we don't have to feel obligated to like, and I notice a lot of people do that online. Like, I'm so sorry I didn't post for, you know, like Women's History Month because my I was taking care of my sick, you know, person and it's like we don't have to do that. We don't have to attack ourselves. We have to like always assume that, you know, somebody's departure, somebody's lack of presence is not inherently like you know, rude or careless. It could come from a place of trauma and hurt and pain um and so and yeah and I feel like there's also this you know, on the upside, a positive thing is that there is this magic we get from love and companionship and friendship, but romantic love, I've never written a romance novel. I got obsessed with this. I have it right here, a post-colonial love
I
poem
love
by
that.
Natalie Diaz.
Yes.
Yes. And I was
Yes.
and like reading that and then my favorite songs and love is so powerful. And I think that in punk rock especially, it's like, hey, posers singing love songs. You know, like
Yeah.
why like you're a Latina, why don't you sing in a hardcore band? Sing about, you know, and I'm like, I could if I wanted to, but I'd rather yell in my tarot card deck that is very social
Mm,
justice focused, and I'd rather yell in like these sad memoirs that get judged for being too depressing, and all my books get reviewed like you're nonstop complaining. But I'm like, I mean that some of us need that. I'm not trying to, to be that universal. I'm just trying to like find a choir of angry people that need to yell together. And but yeah, like that story of love healing us and not seeing it as corny, not, because it's so real when you are held, regularly, when you feel like seen regularly,
yeah.
you really like work like different. You have like a passion and a motivation and a like
Yeah.
because of that exchange that you get to have every day. And I think that you can also build that through ancestral magic, like yoga, herbs. That's what I've been doing in my single life
Mhm.
of, perimenopause single life of just kind of get into those herbs and all that wellness and all that stuff to like really feel what you feel from a crush that is telling you that can't stop thinking about you. And
Yeah.
like, but I wanted to write a story based off of Fulanito and Carolina are based off of me and all my exes. And like, I love that they're all, if they read this, or flames that were like ex-ish or date-ish, like just very
Mhm.
important love connections. Some of these folks are gonna read it and be like, "Oh my God, I said that," but I love that. I'm like, "Well, good. Feel privileged. You touched me. That's awesome. You touched my heart."
I feel like as
And
a
so yeah, like I think celebrating that love, it's very rare sometimes, especially in the movement, like in activist movements. It's like, you know, and I think we need to reclaim that. We need to be like telenovelas.
eso. Well, I was gonna ask you because I was talking about the love and the exes. It's I was gonna ask, are you also? I know CT has heavy Cancer placements. Are you also have a Cancer? It's
Yeah, I'm a
giving that.
Cancer rising and
Okay,
moon. So
okay,
I did give her very similar astrology as me. I made her Cuban, but she's mixed with like more things that I have in my family through like marriage and cousins and like people. Um, because and also in 100 years, it's like people's lineages, like what is gonna happen in 100 years, like, you know. And so I like, yeah, but very Cuban and very like Miami and then Fulanito is Peruvian and Italian. I don't remember. Like all my exes, a little bit of everyone,
yeah.
and yeah, like it's a I feel like kind of that holding on to um sorry, I got distracted because I
Oh,
saw
no,
I
you're
have a
fine.
Titi Amparo too. Titi Amparo. Um, Sorry,
No,
can you repeat or put me back on the road?
of course, yeah, of course, absolutely. I'm happy to. Well, I mean, hablando de Titi Amparo, I
I
mean,
should.
not to dissuade, but I mean, like,
Yeah, no, no.
I
I
want.
closed the chat for now because I get
Okay,
very like.
I'm the same way. I get you. I was gonna, because hablando de Titi Amparo, I want to ask you about, ancestral work, because you keep talking, because that was also another thing. Ancestral magic is such a like focal point to CT's healing in this story.
Yeah.
So like, and just to kind of close us out, can you talk a little bit about that, about how, your own ancestral roots and spirituality, how that has played a role in your work and what ancestral work basically means for you in the way that you approach your art.
Yeah, thank you for asking because that is the memoir. It's like healing from the trauma, missing family, but then that magic being this like new um reconnection to self
Mm,
that punk, at a point punk was like, all right, we're your craft. Now you need like that Cuban magic, that next level cubanaceria, like, And so I started connecting, doing ancestral magic, working with the Orishas, working with the spirits that have been following me since I was a little kid. And I grew up around Santeria and Catholicism. And the Catholic values were very loud, like very like homophobia, a lot of classism, that very Cuban Miami. Even if we're dirt poor, it's like people are just like this. And I don't know, I'm very grateful. I was raised by women who were like willing to talk about all that stuff and change and get called out by me and be like, oye, esa palabra no se dice en esta casa. And then like they would listen and take me seriously. And I'm really grateful. And I hope that like everybody gets empowered to yell at their parents if they say something sketchy. But yeah, like the the ancestral magic had always been following me. Like they were always like, esa niña tiene la igual la está persiguiendo, ¿qué vamos a hacer? And then my mom just like, just let her figure it out. Like she'll figure it out. And then when I got into activism, they were like, oh my God, she's going to feed the homeless and not a rave in like 1998 when rave was like the thing. And I was like, I'm going to go to Food Not Bombs and do like, you know, work, like activist work and all this stuff. And punk, that's what the punks are doing. That's what punk is about. And so my mom and my family was just like, oh, good, you know, she's saved. She can, we're not afraid anymore with like all that stuff, you know, kind of how that pans out, how folks who do have that very close spiritual work and then get into like sketchy stuff, the spirits get pissed. And I'm like, no, my sketchy stuff is only about resisting the system and reclaiming what is ours. And so by the time I was in my 20s and everybody's like, we love the craft. We grew up with the craft. And I'm like, I hated the craft. I thought it was weird. I didn't know. I was just like, I want to listen to the Ramones. I want to drink beer. I'm going to go listen to Ataque 77. I'm going to listen to X-Ray Specs. And like, you know, I wanted to find the black and brown folks in punk, but I also was like not spiritual. So I was like, you know, that's a little, you know, I'm not goth at all. Like, and then the more queer community, they were like, girl, you're really missing out. You need a tarot reading. You need to talk to, you know, Hecate, and you need to talk to Persephone. And I'm like, no, I need to talk to Oshun, and I don't know where she is. So I'm just going to listen to punk for now. And then, yeah, so working on the tarot deck, I'm going to grab it really quick. If any of y'all want me to pull a card later, I would be honored to if we have time. But yeah, working on my tarot deck. This is my tarot deck, and working on this, it was nonstop reconnection to ancestral magic. And like I was in that place that Carolina is in, where she's just a mess. But everyone's like, girl, you're famous. You're so cool. You're so famous. Why don't you want to be cool and famous? And she's like, oh, fuck off, fulanito. I want fulanito. And that's how I was with my ex. I was like, I want my ex to get back with me, and we're going to have babies. I have to have babies by the time I'm 30. And if that doesn't happen, I am a failure at life. And instead of babies, I did this tarot deck, and doing this tarot deck. And yeah, I have like these really punk images. And then I have these like magical reconnection to like gender, to culture, to like, and then yeah, being a punk and breaking into stuff. And, but yeah, I did this for years working on this. And during those years, I was connecting to the magic, doing a limpia. I did like a huge limpia, and everyone's like, you can get initiated. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready. I think I just need to make more art. And then like, yeah, and that there's a bath in Sink or Burn that I won't talk about, because I would love for folks to read the book and it's in the end. It's somewhere. There's a limpieza. And there's a lot of spell work. There's a lot of like rituals and stuff like that. And those are all autobiographical. And sometimes I read them and I'm like, is this interesting? Because I was more focused on being autobiographical than I was on being like whimsical and sci-fi. So I don't, you know, it's like interesting to see how it turned out. But yeah, all of those rituals, all of that work I've been practicing a lot of my magic with my altars, doing offerings regularly, and it's about anti-anxiety. It's about not having false idols, and it's about opening my heart and not chasing, and being like, that is the person I need to be with now. Because I get that way, and I that whole fulanito obsession. It's like I was like, what if one of these things actually was, ended differently than it does in real life? So yeah, that magic being part of healing trauma and integrating like queerness, like Juanita de la Sabuesera from Miami, like being the same as, this like queer author who is very angry. And I was such a different person when the dick came out. I had like a green mohawk and I was just like different times, and it like really important, but also, yeah, like Carolina is based off of that like broken version of me that needed the magic to like move forward.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Cristy, and thank you so much for
Thank
sharing all
you.
that.
Thank you
Because
so much.
this book was its own magic and its own medicine in its own way. So
Ay,
thank you.
thank you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, comadres.
Thank you, ladies. Um, it, the both of you, it's amazing how you were both similar but different. And I love that you both were illustrators, authors and illustrators. It's amazing. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to our authors and their publishers, Irwin Books and 100 Book by Row House, for generously donating books to our early registrants. Special thanks to our incredible interviewers, Comadres Shirley and Jackie. We appreciate our audience for joining us tonight and submitting thoughtful questions. Most importantly, we want to recognize our dedicated volunteers without whom this book club and its associated work would not be possible. Mil gracias. Supporting Latino authors is crucial to our mission. We encourage you to write reviews on platforms like Amazon, Goodreads, and Barnes & Noble, as these interviews significantly impact publishers and potential readers. Consider purchasing books directly to support our authors. And if your library lacks a title you're interested in, don't hesitate to request that they order it. You can also buy books and donate them to the library. Get them started on their little Latino collection. We invite you to attend our virtual local book club meetings and bring friends along. Remember, our book club is open to men and women, Latinos and non-Latinos. All are welcome. Looking ahead, our July 2026 books are Sea Salt and Coffee by Grace Santa Maria and Frida's Cook by Florencia Echeves. Thank you all for your continued support of Las Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club. Please join us in celebrating the book club by buying books and supporting Latino authors. Let's applaud and amplify diverse literary voices throughout the year. Good night. Thank you for being here, and always read Latino Lit.